Over the entire span of human history, the sun was always crucial to every civilization. You see, civilization as we know it only started because of one thing: agriculture. Therefore, the sun was regarded as the giver of life itself through heat, light, and food. That's why the sun is at center of worship of every civilization. And usually the god connected to the sun is the king of the gods and the creator god. Elden Ring is heavily influenced by mythology, yet the sun is absent. The sun in Elden Ring simply isn't important at all. You can even finish your entire playthrough without noticing it. Even in lore, there are very few mentions of it. And when you remember that Elden Ring setting is heavily revolving around, well, trees, this absence is quite uncanny. It's like the sun was scrapped from everything on purpose. And indeed, I believe that this is the case. The sun was erased from history, its power stolen, its color drained, and it was eclipsed by the Erdtree. Yes, I believe in Elden Ring eclipses doesn't necessarily require a moon. Instead, the Erdtree itself eclipsed the sun, drained its power, its golden color, and replaced it. Then Marika erased everything about the sun and its realm from history. In this series, we will go over the rise and fall of the Sun Realm. But in order to truly get the full picture, we need to start from its fall and go back in time from there. The story of Elden Ring is heavily revolving around the concept of cycles repeating themselves. Just like the Erdtree was the center of worship and the giver of light during the Golden Order cycle, the sun was the center of worship and the giver of light during the Sun Realm cycle. This can be easily found if we look at the description of the Warming Stone. The item tells us that the Erdtree was once as warm as the gentle sun and would gradually heal all who bathed in its rays. We can learn here that the Erdtree replaced the sun itself as the giver of light and warmth. This lore revelation is one of the most important in the game, but in matter of fact, it's just the tip of the iceberg, because the base material required to craft the Warming Stone can answer one of the biggest mysteries in Elden Ring. The base material is called the Sanctuary Stone, and it originates from the fallen ruins all over the lands between. It is said to feed and strengthen the light as it shines, and we can see here its inherent light shining through. The Warming Stones were made to mimic the effect that the Erdtree once had. But in order to do so, they need a light source. But not just any light. They need the light of the sun stored in the Sanctuary Stones. The Sanctuary Stones that originates from the ruins of Farum Azula. Farum Azula, the floating royal city of the rulers of the previous cycle, the dragons. The cycle that venerated the sun and placed it at the center of their worship. They even stored its power in Sanctuary Stones, just like we store the power of the sun through solar panels. And the final nail to the coffin, the beastmen of Farum Azula can actually drop Sanctuary Stones. And the beastmen that live in death holds the Sun Realm Shield. We will go over all of this, but as I said at the beginning, we need to do it in reverse. So the Warming Stones use the light of the sun stored in the Sanctuary Stones. Now after the DLC, we actually get an even stronger variation of the Warming Stones. They are explicitly called Sun Warmth Stone. But this is just the beginning. In order to craft those golden sun warmth stone, you need 3 ingredients: a black butterfly, a spirit grave stone, and the blessed bone shard. Only one of those has a golden color, the blessed bone shard. So the power of the golden sun warmth stone comes from the blessed bone shard. But what is the source of that power? Let's read the blessed bone shard description together. Shard of bone with a golden shine, a bone fragment touched by the gold of the shadow tree. broken from the remains of the warriors who perished in the realm of shadow. A blessing such as this is said to be the greatest honor that can be granted to the dead. The blessed bone shard powers come from the gold of the shadow tree. But wait a minute, how is this possible? How can the gold of the shadow tree result in a sun warmth stone? Unless the gold of the shadow tree actually comes from the golden sun. Unless the tree stole the power of the sun and drained it of its golden color. The shadow tree, despite not being the center of our journey in the Shadowlands, was incredibly important. Because the shadow tree actually can give us some insight about the Erdtree in its prime. Unlike its counterpart who died long ago, the shadow tree still retains its blessed sap, its bounty. But the sap isn't the only power that the Erdtree lost while the shadow tree still retains. As we said earlier, the Erdtree was once as warm as the gentle sun and would heal anyone who bathed in its rays. Again, unlike the Erdtree who lost that power, the shadow tree still retains the power of the sun inside of it. That's exactly why the gold of the shadow tree can produce sun warmth stone. But this isn't the only evidence. One of the most unique bosses in the entirety of Elden Ring is the shadow tree avatar, the only three-faced boss we have. The shadow tree avatar is actually called a shadow sunflower, and of course it's modeled after a real-life sunflower. Not just that, but that sunflower is called a manifestation of the shadow tree itself. It's like the game is trying to tell us that the shadow tree itself is some kind of a sunflower, a tree that feeds off the power of the sun. Now, if I didn't blow your mind yet, be ready. We can see here the shadow tree avatar. Now if we put the radiant gold mask beside it, it gets crazy. The mask doesn't just look like a sun or a sunflower, but those dots looks identical to the eyes of the shadow tree avatar, especially the dots on the left. The mask is clearly modeled after the shadow tree avatar. It seems the ever-brilliant gold mask knew much more than we thought. A fact that becomes more clear if we look at the description of the radiant gold mask. It says that the mask is designed to resemble a blazing golden halo. Now what gives a golden halo? Yes, a golden sun. The choice of the word blazing here is very interesting too, because the most common meaning behind the word is very hot, and it's mostly used to describe the sun. Now another interpretation that you may think about when seeing this mask is the halo of light used in religious illustrations, like the illustration of Jesus Christ or the Virgin Mary. But if we look at them side by side, you may notice a big difference. The gold mask isn't just a circle, it's a circle with spikes all around it, like the rays of the sun. And of course, as we said, it has the same eye design of the shadow tree avatar. Even if we considered it a normal halo, it would also represent the sun, because the halo as a religious symbol was used way back before Jesus. It was used for the first time in ancient Egypt, where the sun god Ra was always portrayed with a circle of light behind him, representing the sun, of course. In matter of fact, ancient Egypt and its mythology is incredibly important for understanding the sun realm, and it will come very handy later on. But for now, do you know that in ancient Egypt, they had a capital that was called the City of the Sun, or Heliopolis? So stay tuned for the next parts in the series and hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss it. Now going back to the Erdtree and its shadow, we need to talk about something really obvious about them. They are trees, and well, trees, they can only exist because of the sun. Of course, in real life, we all know how important the sun is to trees. Trees can simply not exist without the energy they get from the sun, because it's how they make food. You see, trees need water and food to survive. They get water from very deep under the earth's surface through their roots, and they get carbon dioxide from the air. But both of those ingredients are useless without the sun. because the chemical process needed to turn those two components into glucose can't happen without the energy provided by the sun. In turn, trees give us food and oxygen to breathe, and so humans cannot live without them or the sun. Remember at the start of the video, I said that the sun was worshipped as a giver of life. Now that's why. Now if we look at Elden Ring, we can draw some very strong parallels here. Just like the roots of the trees search for water, the roots of the Erdtree also search for something. First, those roots are connected to the great tree and most likely the crucible itself, which acts like water in real life. In matter of fact, this parallel between the crucible and water is always present in Elden Ring. In various item descriptions that talk about the crucible, it's being called a torrent of life. Of course, torrent means a stream of water. We will make a video about the crucible after the revelation we received from the DLC in the future, so stay tuned. Going back to the roots of the Erdtree, they also have another energy source, Erdtree burials. We can see with our own eyes how the Erdtree feeds off the corpses of the dead through the ritual called Erdtree burials. Again, this draws even more parallels to the real-life trees, because in matter of fact, humans can be a great fertilizer. But most people wouldn't like the idea of eating food fertilized by dead bodies. So all of those parallels here to real-life trees, but the sun is totally absent. Isn't that really weird? Indeed it is. But you know now that this is a big lie. The Erdtree actually drained the entirety of the power of the sun. It even drained its golden color for itself, which resulted in the state we are in. The Erdtree became golden, it got an absurd amount of power, and it replaced the sun. Now I said that the Erdtree drained the sun of its color. Doesn't that phrase sound familiar? You know what happens when a sun is drained of its color? Yes, an eclipse. The eclipse is an incredibly important yet mysterious subject in the lore of Elden Ring. Numerous items, characters, and places talk about it. Castle Sol, the Wandering Mausoleums, Eclipse Shields, and Mausoleum Knights. We can read here the description of the eclipse. A metal great shield painted with a sun in eclipse. The eclipsed sun, drained of color, is a protective star of the soulless demigods. It aids the Mausoleum Knights by keeping distant death at bay. In numerous other items, the eclipsed sun is said to be drained of color. Of course, over the past 3 years, we always looked at the eclipse like a real-life eclipse, where the moon is the reason behind the eclipse. But what if it's an eclipse in the metaphorical way, where the sun is eclipsed but not necessarily by the moon, and it gets drained of its color? I believe the reason behind the last eclipse that ended the reign of the Sun Realm was not a moon, but the Erdtree. It stole the golden color of the sun and left it drained of color. Let's look at a very important item in Elden Ring, the smithing stones. We have two kinds of smithing stones, the normal smithing stone and the somber smithing stones. The ancient dragon smithing stone reads as follows: smithing stone made polishing a golden gravel stone, a scale of the ancient dragon lord and hidden treasure of Faramazula. Of course, the smithing stone color is golden, but even the description mentions that explicitly. Now let's go to the somber one. Ancient dragon rock smithing stone drained of color, a scale of the ancient dragon lord and hidden treasure of Faramazula. We can see here very clearly how the golden smithing stones was drained of their color. I believe it's just like the golden sun of the dragons that got drained of its color, but not due to a moon, but due to something that used that golden power and color for itself, the Erdtree. Now you may ask a question: if the Erdtree drained the sun of its color, then why the sun we see in the lands between isn't totally drained of color? Remember what we said about the Erdtree earlier, that it lost its powers? I believe that's why the sun looks in a better shape now, because it's gradually retrieving its power from the dying Erdtree. And when this process is finished, another cycle would begin. The subject of the eclipse and the sun realm is huge and very complicated. That's why I prefer to split it on several parts, and in the next part we will go even deeper into the subject. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like and subscribe button and tell me in the comments what you think. Until next part, farewell, fellow tarnished.